Hi everybody, the Mature Simmer here. So we're back on Misty Hills after quite a bit of time away, again waiting for things to be ready. And at this point I am in an early afternoon. This morning it was too wet to harvest, but at this point we're in good shape, and so we're going to get going on the cotton harvest. Basically, the weather looks like we've got today, maybe tomorrow morning, where we won't have rain, but obviously the dew was in effect this morning. At least I believe that's what it was. And so I'm trying to, oops, all right, just make sure, whoop, I thought I would get a diagonal line, and I did. So let me get this back so that I have an appropriate angle. There we go. Alright, but I'm not sure that I actually need headlands. I've not done these fields with a cotton harvester, so I'm going to go ahead and actually start going up here, and we'll see where we're at. I do want to check the precision farming map. I do believe I have the yield cleared. Yes, I do. So that if I go to the yield map, right, I have nothing on my fields. Not quite sure why these are blue but the others aren't, but maybe it's just because I'm not down here yet and the precision farming system hasn't gone ahead and noted itself down there. Alright, so amazingly this seems to have lined itself up appropriately, and that should work, so we'll begin harvesting in earnest here. I believe that is clear, but I just want to be sure before I start out on the wrong foot that I'm getting everything, and I am. Alright, so year 74 harvest has begun. Always an exciting time of year on the farm here, when we're ready to reap the fruits of our labors and see where things end up. Obviously, as we saw last year when we were doing a significant amount of fields through the leasing that we did, the size of the bales and the slowness of filling means there's a good, I think, 10 or 15 minutes at least before we have to dump a bale out between bales. So we'll certainly be doing that. We're going to have to cart these down to the store, but obviously these fields are closer than the ones that I had worked on before on the north end. So all in all, we're going to have, I think, what should be a slightly simpler harvest than what we did leasing the fields, and certainly just mathematically must be more profitable because I'm not spending $250,000 or so to lease fields. So overall, I'm pretty excited to get this going because these are, well, not pure profit. I'm just dealing with the supplies that went onto these fields. So the other steps in between that have occurred are, I've done several customs export contracts on the days that really nothing was happening on the farm, but I had some time. So I think, yeah, there was the set that I had done on the server, where I think I had done 7 different contracts the one day to get a whole server cleared, and had actually used it as a how-to video of customs contracts. So you can go take a look at that if you're interested on details of how to make those work, if you're involved in FSN and need some assistance there. for how I handle those and what I do with them and how they operate. And I did a couple more every 2 days or so. So I think I've done like an additional 4 that I got done, including a couple last night before the end of the day. Oh, this worked out perfectly. So I was worried with that little nub we have up here. It always usually requires a little bit of tap dancing, but it had not. So I will say that one nice thing, certainly with harvesting these crops, is the fact that there's no emptying of the harvester per se, where I need a truck and a trailer to get what's being harvested away. I just simply dump these bales out, so I have to have less concern about providing a path or an easy way for a truck to get here. Now ultimately, I'm still at a point, because I'm starting late afternoon, and a lot of my playtime is early morning when I have a lot more direct time available. I want to be cognizant of not leaving things laying around any more than I need to. So I will have to be able to get to the storage location, and so what I'll probably do after I finish these couple fields is head on down to 8586 and clear that out, so that I do have a clear line with a truck to get to the storage space, so that I can pick up the bales if I need to before the end of the day today, and get that taken care of. So the other thing that I've seen being discussed within FSN regarding some possible rule changes based on some situations of contracts not being taken readily in some cases is a token system, where basically to be able to put out a customs contract, you're going to have done one. Now on the surface, certainly overall it makes sense. I think there's a little bit of a question of execution, so I'll be curious to see how it all comes together. Because obviously in the beginning, nobody's going to have any credits unless they look at perhaps going back, 1 or 2 game years or something, and seeing what contracts someone did and giving you past credit for contracts you've done to kind of fill your account, which would make some sense to me if that's how we looked at doing it. The other way is obviously, maybe everyone gets 1 token by default so that you can do something, because otherwise somebody's going to list contracts without having the ability to potentially have done some, although there usually are a few out there. But I'm not sure that there's enough to satisfy the demand of the entire system if it's tit for tat immediately. And I'm also going to be curious if bale contracts are going to be similar. Are they going to earn the same token as a full non-bale contract? Because it's a lot simpler to come in and simply say, yep, you've got 300 straw bales, yep, go sell. And that's the impact of doing the contract. Once again, I don't know that, I don't honestly, I guess, care which way it is. It's just going to be a curiosity of how it goes forth, and then have to figure out how I then work within that system. But that's what it looks like we'll be doing, to try to provide some more incentive to people to move contracts faster. So I did share in previous episodes that sometimes we've had some of the FMs on the server, myself included, where you're waiting days and days and days for your crops to show up to be able to work with them on the selling side. And so this was what was decided to try to help that along, because it has at least been identified and acknowledged as a possible issue that needs some attention. So those are kind of the main things that jump out as things to share with you as we've been apart in this series for several days, and obviously life goes on and other things happen in between that do have an impact on this location. With regards to the other thing, that the 800-pound gorilla in the room that is always going to be hanging over these at this point is, where do we stand on the progress to FS22? Servers are starting to get rolled out. People are starting to work on them. I've seen a few conversations here and there as contractors look to get work, and there aren't a lot of contracts going up from FS22 servers simply because it appears just the field sizes are not that large on the base maps. You don't have any large 4x maps like I think a lot of these are in FS22. This morning, the first map did drop that I saw on ModHub, but it's no man's land, so that wouldn't really be something conducive to this style of gameplay with multiplayers and cooperative and so forth, so it doesn't really help from new map options for FSN. The good news is there are things coming out. There's definitely mods that do matter, like guidance steering is available finally for about the last week. It works similarly. Graphically, it's executed a little bit differently than what you're seeing here. You don't have just little dots that are a little less visible. They're lines that are quite obvious. I somewhat like this view where it's, even when it's on, it's relatively unobtrusive. I think that is just much more stark and jarring per se. But once again, it's not like it doesn't work, and it basically functions similarly in the same way, so, which is kind of the key point. You don't have to relearn commands, you don't have to do a lot of other things. I just think it runs into the same situation with console players not having access to stuff like that, so I think the only thing they're still able to do is now try to use those active workers. Giants did also come out with a patch in the middle of the week that addressed some things, but I haven't honestly had a chance to experiment myself much. I just haven't spent time there. I've been doing other things with my leisure time, usually in other games and so forth that I operate in. Just because, once again, I haven't had the draw and the pull to FS22 because it's just been kind of a mediocre rollout for me. So I still much prefer the gameplay here in FS19, and I just didn't really give it a shot. But the feedback that I'm seeing out there from a lot of people is that while they fixed things, substantially more was now broken because of the changes they made. So it sounds like it might have been one step forward, two steps back, which would be unfortunate if that's really the case. But Giants is trying to do something, which we have to give them credit for there. It just, unfortunately, in my mind, in my opinion, continues to bolster my stance of this is exactly why I would really encourage them to rethink Farming Simulator and how it moves forward in the future, because these growing pains is exactly what I feared, where there's definitely comments that are starting to border on the, I don't know that I'm going to keep looking at FS22. There's people talking about, asking for refunds. There's, and that may have existed in FS19 as well. I don't know if the scale's different. I'm just simply observing what I see now, and that is discontent in the community, which, if they had simply added production chains and some of the other things that one might argue are changes that are impactful as the raison d'etre for, the reason to exist for FS22. If they had just attached those as enhancements to FS19, much of the debate we have wouldn't be going on, because you wouldn't be trying to get things working like contracts and things that were already working just fine in FS19 that you're in essence trying to recreate in a new version simply because you have a new version. They're not any better, they're not any different, they're just worse because they're not working. So that's kind of where things are at this point. I'm going to go ahead, as we've done on any of these long work tasks that we have, which certainly harvesting 7 fields of cotton will be, because in all this discussion, I think we're only on our 4th or 5th row, so definitely we're not moving along super fast here. And we haven't even gotten one bale, but I will continue to move along, and as things come up that are worthwhile to jump in and interrupt for, I will do that. And so I'll see you when I see you. Okay, so after a very long day, I have finally finished over here on field 89. That bale there is the last bale of the day that's been made. I still need to collect them. I will likely be doing that tonight, but it took about, I think, 10 to 12 hours of harvesting. I ended up having to redo some because I pushed it a little too close to the server reset time last night, and when I got back on today, was not where I was last night, so I think I lost like 15 to 20 minutes of work. So I had a little bit of an overlap that I had to do on field 29, but basically 29, 30, and 89 were done today, and as you can see, it's getting late in the day. The server's a little bit ahead of real time, but it's mid-afternoon, and I started pretty early and really haven't stopped much, so I think I did like 8 or 9 hours today, and I did at least 5 hours last night, so it's been a lot to harvest this, which is kind of what I figured because I knew they'd be larger. It's certainly still less than my total harvest time last year with the rented fields, but it did take a while. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I will collect these bales up, and I'll be back to let you know where we're at, and also if we're going to go ahead and sell them right now, if the prices look good, or if I'm going to hang on to them. So I've just gone ahead and repaired the harvest, or cleaned up the harvester. Now that I see it, I realize I didn't repair the harvester, so let me head back. I was thinking about doing that, and then I was washing it and all happy that I had gotten gas, and I saw a $1 charge and just was an autopilot moving forward. But anyway, so I'm going to go back and repair it, but I'm going to go ahead and get these bales collected. And having taken a quick look at the market, just the direct sell market, it's at a high enough level that I'd be pretty happy with it at this point, and it looks like from the spreadsheet that I'll get over $1 million in profit off these fields. So, and that doesn't include the 29 bales that are already in there, so there'll be even more money coming in, but the profit on that will be lower because those come off those fields for the most part that we leased. So we're going to have a $250,000 expense there that will go against that profit, so it'll be a little bit lower. But so with my new spreadsheet, it's looking like we're basically making $6,000 to $7,000 an acre with cotton in profit once all is said and done, which is pretty nice. And so having 100 plus acres, that adds up to quite a tidy sum. Alright, so I will go ahead at this point, do the work, and I'll be back once everything's done and kind of show you the final result. And I'll go ahead and get that contract out there so that I can get rid of those bales, because I'm pretty sure I'll have a full store or really close to it. So, see you in a bit. Alright, so there is our cotton bale store. The other one is for hemp to do later. I've still got bales out in the field. I actually had created more than I could store, which I didn't think would be possible, but I have, if I'm estimating correctly, about 9 bales left out in the field yet. So I've already placed the customs contract out to sell these. So it's going to be about, you're looking at about $1.6 million of cotton. So that will be a nice addition to the coffers for the farm. Plus we've got, again, 9 bales that will go and start replenishing the new store that we'll put in place here, that will, likely go ahead and wait on and kind of do something similar. I mean, I wasn't actually expecting to have a completely full bale store, but it's great. So yeah, the trailer there has one bale still in it. You can see it there. And as I said, we've got bales out here on 85 and 86. I believe I've collected everything other than all the bales on this field. I got the 2 bales that were nearby here, but I still have bales on these 2 fields I really haven't gone around and collected. And just doing the math per what I had put in, I have about 800,000, almost 820,000 liters of cotton, according to what Precision Farming was telling me I pulled off these fields, which turns into basically 41 bales. And so that's kind of where I estimated that I have too many, because I only had room for 31 bales. So in theory, I may have 10 bales out in the field. It just really will depend. But obviously, I'll collect those up once I am able to handle this contract. So I'm hoping at a minimum, maybe I'll be able to have one of the FMs that's on normally in the morning every day. Maybe tomorrow morning, if we can do the contract and get that done, and then I can collect everything up in late autumn and be ready to go and wait for year 35 and start figuring, or year 75, and start figuring out what I'm going to do. And I don't know that it's worthwhile, because I was kind of debating, do I want to clear more and put a 3rd store out here, but I don't know that I really need that, because we did do really well and, filled this up in 2 years because of the leased fields. But as I said, I'm likely not going to do that again. I'll definitely look at the finances, and I'll either include it in an episode, or I may end up doing a totally separate episode, just kind of really delving into the depths of Misty Hills, because I'm at the point now where I've got so much data, I really need to start trying to see if I can learn anything from it, which I think I can. But that's what we've got for now. So we're waiting for our customs contract to sell. The other contracts have been progressing pretty well. Oats are nearly all sold, and we've got a few lingering remnants of coffee. So basically by the end of December, I think everything would be expired. So we'll see where we're at, but I'm sure we'll just have a handful, because I know coffee, we were down to less than 100 liters, so it's selling at 10, 12 liters at a time. So, but I think it still has at least a week left to go, so hopefully it'll trickle away and get sold. But that's what we've got for this episode. I will talk to you next time.